everybody, and welcome to Red Wings Rant, where tirades and impassioned pleas for your Detroit Red Wings. Mike, they finally
have a home! Woo! That's right. We are fresh after the wild card winning Detroit Tigers. Performance art, welcome to Tiger
Performance
Party
art
/ Elmer Soderblom hour. What's up? On time for the first time. Oh my God.
Yeah, this was
this feeling we were supposed
definitely
to have last April instead of collapsing by 1 point.
Yeah, couple of vibes right now in Detroit sports that could not be matched. So maybe today's episode an opportunity for us to focus on the future instead of trying to make sure there's some higher paid names on this roster. But anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. Mike.
Yes.
The Ilitch family paying a whopping $18.8 million for this roster. The Tigers roster, I mean. And they are going to ALDS, Mike. What the hell? Could there be a worse time for an Ilitch-owned franchise? Somebody sent me that number. Let me see. Spot Racks, the Detroit Tigers 26-man wild card roster combines for $18.8 million of 2024 salary. So Spot Racks says 62 MLB players earn more than this.
I think it's important to mention that what that's saying is that when you have a playoff roster, not everybody's on it. So it's saying that the guys that we picked only cost that amount of money. So, for example, Javi Baez and his $25 million salary, not included. Kenta Maeda and his $14 million salary, not included. So it is an incredible feat, and I think it's just worth noting that the reason it's so low is we didn't bring our expensive jabronis on the roster. And there's a hockey segue.
So maybe
here,
I'm
I promise.
Big dumb idiot.
Why?
Yeah. No, I think I know where you're going.
Well.
No? Oh, I thought, okay.
Listen, I know that
with you explaining it.
Coming from me, right, the person who has wanted Kane for 2 years, was very happy the first time we got him, even happier the second time, and gave you an air high five when we signed, don't call me short in the teeth, Tarasenko, to form the Patio Cripley line of Tarasenko, Kane, and maybe Comfer. With all that said, the Patio Cripley line, hopefully has some real competition hot on their heels, Matt. And I know we're just talking about exhibition hockey. I know that a lot of our success was based on playing the Blackhawks, who even at their, major league level, there's, probably a lot of guys who could probably be in the minors. Matt, can we use the Tigers as a template and get some of these young guys to play for us on opening night?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I came in hot with that number, and I was like, right after you explained it, I was like, oh wait, this is perfect. This is exactly what we want. Yeah. We want to focus on the young boys and see what they can do.
I thought you were about to pull a Charles Barkley on us. Them young boys, they coming. They coming.
Well, Hinch said he asked his team right in late July. He said, "What team do you guys want to be?" And then, of course, that was his champagne celebration, and he, popped the bottle, sprayed it all over them young boys, and said, "I guess you guys want to be a playoff team."
You want to get them ready? Got to soak them young boys. And performance art, right on the money, a little money ball. Yeah.
I'm a little worried that our audio is not synced because I feel like your reactions to me talking are off by about 4 seconds. So I think we have a little bit of a problem that I'm worried about right now, but we'll keep trying.
That's funny. That's the same thing that I got at the Tigers broadcast today, that there were some technical difficulties and performance art. You are right. It's not in sync. Matt, do you want to try to leave first or me?
I'll try leaving first if you want to I don't know. Here, do you want to? Well, I could set up. I have the slides. I'll set up our show topic if you want to come right back, and then we'll keep talking.
All right, we'll be right back. One second.
But yeah, performance art. Any chance Nate stays? Well, look, this is exactly what I want to talk about today. We'll get back into more details, but it's just, talking about this Tigers team, you hope that there's some learnings that the Ilitches would like to run across their franchises here. Now, of course, I actually I would prefer that our franchises do spend and they treat seasons seriously, but obviously we've been talking for an entire offseason here about sometimes the spending does not pan out the way you want it to. The Tigers right now in the playoffs have their highest paid player not joining them on the roster. Kind of hoping we go that route. So performance arts question, Mike. Any chance Nate stays? That's kind of what I want to focus on, including Marco Kasper. I will throw in there one thing we didn't get a chance to talk about because I screwed Mike over with my dumb post-game schedule last week. We never got to talk about this. It's Moritz Seider and his 7-year deal. Mike, last week I just threw out there huge win for the Red Wings. The national point of view is that this is a mutual win because nationally they say Seider hasn't proved anything. I think we've seen enough of Mo Seider. We know what his task is night in and night out. That this is going to look this is going to look silly in a few years. Paying our boy 8.5 for another 7 years, especially with the cap going up. Huge deals coming in from Canada apparently next season to jack up the TV contracts and jack up that salary cap across the league. But Mike, I mean, besides those thoughts, besides us going like, oh man, Seider, you should have held out, my man, or you should have gone shorter. You're gonna miss out on some dough in a couple of years. Any other thoughts?
I just think that contract is. I honestly don't know what to compare it to because of how well it's going to age. Every single year, it's just going to get a higher and higher value as he improves, and the cap is just continuing to grow. So it's not inconceivable that our best defenseman by the end of this will be our third highest paid defenseman, just the way the market value is going to work. I'm not even saying it's going to necessarily be Edvinsson who gets more money than him, but if you're going to outsource and bring in, some more help, some of these contracts expire, and you become a serious contender to try and win, you're probably going to have to pay more than what Seider's making. So it's, man, I don't know how, what kind of you remember the movie Get Out and the woman, was it Catherine Keener, was just sitting there with the tea, just putting her spoon across the cup, and it was kind of hypnotizing whoever was sitting across from her. I don't know if Yzerman, that's like his favorite movie, yeah. And he gets in the negotiating room and he's offering Mo some tea and he's just. So, yeah, you want to take like a 25% market discount? Yeah, sounds good to me. And then he just falls into the sunken place, which is 8 years in Detroit.
Well, hopefully it's got more positive results than the sunken place.
I know I made it sound bleak with the sunken place, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah. We're all on the same page. I did want to hit you up too with this one. I don't know if you caught this, but Dan B threw out there. I got 64 million reasons why I'm happy today. Mike, have you heard about Jeremy Swayman and the Cam Neely story? If not, I can recap it for you real quick.
Recap.
This is the line that the president of Hockey Ops in Boston, as they're going through negotiations with Jeremy Swayman, threw out in a press conference, basically throwing his goaltender under the bus, saying like, hey, we offered him $64 million and he's still not taking it. And as much fun as that was, Jeremy Swayman's agent came out later that day and tweeted, this is not the number we were offered. We've never seen this number. Oh, and boy. Man, oh man, is it juicy. And Hey, Jeremy Swayman, Mike, he's on the market officially. I would say that if somebody came in with a good enough trade, Boston probably fudged this up just well enough that they might be better off just hitting the reset button on the old goaltender market. You know, and in all honesty, too, Jeremy Swayman is not a proven starter. Of course, famously, Boston Bruins would go 1A, 1B, so he has not been relied upon as a starter, but he wanted to get paid. And Boston, to this point, hadn't agreed, and I don't know. I thought a couple of funny maybe circumstances here that could have played out is Cam Neely's just bad at math. And they were actually offering him like $6 million a year, and he just did not know 8 times 6. And instead, he's in this press conference and throws out the $64 million number. Somebody else on, I believe it was Puck Soup, threw out there, like, what if he like he's president of Hockey Ops, so he's not actually in the negotiations. What if he just revealed like their ceiling, like on accident, and he's like, he knew, like, oh yeah, the ceiling $64 million, and as far as he knew, Jeremy had said no to everything they'd offer. And then that boob goes on live TV and reveals the ceiling. Just fun. I think it was called out too on Discord. Somebody threw out there, like, see, this is why Steve Yzerman keeping quiet is good for your franchise. But yeah, just a fun loving hockey bit of drama. Fun for us. Sucks if you're a Boston Bruins fan.
I think this is an interesting story too as a Red Wing fan, because if there's one thing Yzerman likes to do, it's collect goalies. And as you know, Jeremy Swayman does play goalie. And why have 4 to 5 goaltenders potentially capable of starting for you when you could have 5 to 6?
It might be, we'd have to really,
it would be a problem that kind of solves
make
itself.
that contract work.
I would think that like Kosa would be on the move, draft equity, and then I don't know, Talbot, I don't know, something like that, and then I don't know, anything but
you have to give him a goalie, right?
Anything but my boy Axel, and I think about it prospect wise. But goddamn, $64 million. I just read a thing that said he would be in the top 5 goaltenders, but wouldn't he be like number 2? Because it's like Sorokin in New York's getting 8.25. So I was thinking it was like 8 years of 8. No? Did they have the length on there, or they just threw the number out?
8 by 8. What is Vasilevsky's at 9.5? Bobrovsky is at,
I see what happened.
like
I had it set up
10.5?
by salaries instead of average annual value. So yeah, it's like Carey Price, Bobrovsky, Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, Sorokin, and then he would be like 5, 6.
Based on the Bruins like recent track record, they'd be better off like going the Red Wings direction of just, like if they did a one for like just trade goalie situations, like we would be pretty cool. They would have now a bunch of goalies to test out the theory that their success is actually based on coaching strategy and depth on the blue line. But hey, they have a way to test it out. They just have to call Steve Yzerman. Performance art. Campbell's going to be our story this year. I wouldn't mind it. I'm just I didn't know I'm not putting any money on it.
Was a burner account for Jack Campbell. That's pretty cool. Friend of the show. Glad to see you, Jack. I don't think that's gonna happen. I just remember we were talking about like how the Toronto Maple Leafs structure their cap sheet. How Boston is potentially thinking about putting like $8 million a season into a goalie and then having that turned down. And the Red Wings plan is to pay Andrew Kopp and Comp for a combined $10.7 million. There's all different ways to do your salary cap. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, there's.
All right, I don't want to talk too much trash, just because I know that we actually had some nice things coming up.
We'll see who gets closer to the cup,
including my beloved Soderblom.
We do,
he got hit right in the onions the other day. I don't know if you saw that. It was literally my fantasy hockey team name, Soderblom, and right in the onions with that hockey puck in an exhibition game that meant nothing, Matt. Well, How many more sacrifices does a 6'8" man have to make this opening night?
Well, Mike, I wouldn't mind it, but I'll tell you there are a couple of boys who are having much nicer results from their day to day, both in practice and on the ice in these preseason games. And I did throw out there, like it's in the title of this episode, Marco Kasper for sure, and we'll talk about it. We talked about it on the last episode, just the short-handed tenacity and bulldog like ferocity. Let's just start throwing in all these itty words in there. But yeah, if you guys have not seen it, we looked at the replays last week, but Marco Kasper is just dogging the puck on the penalty kill. And it's just continued, and it's continued into his 5-on-5 play. Something that's just now become something that you could count on for almost every Marco Kasper shift. And on top of that, some pretty amazing scoring chances coming at it too. We kind of see that Marco will probably be able to set some of these plays up throughout the season, but he's gonna need some guys to play around. But before we get into that, I think my order of slides here, I actually threw in Nate Danielson first here, and sort of the story that's being built up. I just want to kind of throw this out there because I think last night we got the moment that could definitely bring a guy like Nate Danielson onto this team for the role, and we'll talk about where he can fit in the lineup exactly. But the story here is this is just from practice. This is Patrick Kane talking about it, and of course this led into Nate Danielson centering Tarasenko and Kane that night. But Kane goes out there and says Danielson's really impressive. Skated with him a little bit when I first came into Detroit this summer. A lot of skill. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Connor Bedard.
Oh my God.
The way he plays and the way he stick handles and shoots. I know he's a high-end prospect as well, but he looks like he's got a bright future. Keep in mind, Mike, Connor Bedard in his draft year when he was reviewing other players being taken off the board, came to Nate Danielson and said, that is the toughest guy I've ever played against defensively. So he's already got praise from Connor Bedard, but now Patrick Kane, Mike, the greatest American hockey player of all time.
My regret right now is not doing a little bit more research with this quote to just see if Kane says this every season, about some prospect. He's like, listen, I've been around a lot of guys, but I think Justin Hall, he's got a little Nick Lidstrom in him. I know it's a little crazy, but I see it. I just see a little bit of it. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. So I don't know if Patrick Kane's like a Brian Regan fan as far as being the epitome of hyperbole, but if we don't use the name, Patrick Kane is insinuating that Nate Danielson has a little bit of generational prospect in him of all time. He has a little bit of the greatest prospect of all time in him. Just I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to get a local broadcasting career off the ground here in Detroit. But my God, what a compliment to call him Connor Bedard. The guy, man, we were willing to tank for years just to bring him aboard, and it didn't work. That'd be nice.
Steve didn't get that memo.
No, it'd be nice. I don't know what Kane was smoking. And hats off to Matt. I see you. I was going to comment on this one too, but Crimson Shadow saying, "Sup, y'all? I'm fishing right now, so you're the voice in my pocket." Crimson, that comment is the voice in my heart. That's what I like to hear.
So what we got today, Max Boltman was kind of going over like his preseason updates. He throws out there a preseason goal only counts for so much. Danielson still, in all likelihood, looks headed for Grand Rapids to start the season. Can play some big minute offensive roles. But the goal still mattered because for all the impressive details in Danielson's game, he will at some point be expected to produce. And while a breakaway goal in an exhibition won't change any narratives about his potential to do so, it will be an example of the skill that he can bring to the ice. I can't read the bottom part, so I just... Max, if you're listening, that obviously wasn't verbatim, but Look, I'm going to bring up the replay. We can take a quick peek here, but I definitely, I don't know. I'm gonna push back a little bit here because this is a team that does value their two-way game, and you are getting constant praise from Lalone. You're getting praise from the other players on this team. It's a locker room that is showing confidence in our boy, and I feel like that goal is more or less like, to me, that would be the statement. Like, you could see, Mike, before we hit go on this. Look at the shots, 37-18. Good, Yari, pro goalie. Not anything where we have to qualify this for like an AHL goaltender. Nope.
Like, hey, come on, that's only Jack Campbell.
Nate.
That's tomorrow, boys. Don't forget.
That's right. Thanks for everybody that's signed up too. I'll say as well that for that league, I brought down the roster totals because I feel like last year
that's a lot of teams. That was a lot of teams last year. That waiver wire was flaccid, to say the least. Matt, I don't know if you want to try and exit and come back because your audio is still just a little off.
Yeah,
like we
sure.
can hear
Yeah,
you, but there's like
I'll
a
be right back.
a 3-second delay. Yeah, I feel like we're
did just switch internet providers.
Oh, yeah. If you make sure you're
all right, I'll be back.
Matt's on dial-up, everybody. Really excited to have him back whenever he can. But yeah, I know one of the talking points was whether or not Nate Danielson is going to make it. Marco Kasper. So pretty exciting kids. And just taking a look at the way the roster's kind of lined up. Like the sure things: Larkin, Lucas, DeBrincat, Kopp, Comfer, Tarasenko, Kane, Rasmussen, Joe Veleno, Christian Fisher. And then we start getting into, these are the guys who are likely going to be scratched. The Mott's, and unfortunately the Burger. So as far as people bringing up, what's the chance of Kasper making it?
Mott's
I'm
fine.
not saying he's bad. I'm saying if you're looking at guys who are going to get scratched so that we can have our hopes and dreams come true, and you see Kasper or Danielson, it's almost certainly going to be the Burger. Screwed once again.
So I don't think so. So I've drawn up a little bit of a. I've got a bit of a mess here because this is obviously not
That's
just
pretty cool.
4 lines.
15 forwards. Look at that.
That's how you make it work. No defenseman, Mike. No,
So we're just gonna be forwards and goalies. That's gonna be our. That's gonna be like when the Tampa Bay Rays redid their defensive alignment. So they had like 3 guys left to second base, and pretty exciting lineup here for your Detroit Red Wings. They're icing 4 goalies and 15 forwards tonight. So it might be a little bit of a different game. Oh, and another shot there, and hard to get through a wall of 4 human beings playing goaltender at the same time. So I don't know what kind of wild stuff you think we're going to set up, Matt, but that's what it would take.
Well, I do want to show some of the Marco Kasper highlights too, because we talked about these a little bit already. But there's an opportunity here, and I sort of defined it in the slide as like we need to decide like what's our identity here on the bottom 9, because right now it just kind of feels like you have a second line that could really be a problem defensively because you've got Kane and Tarasenko, and I forget the name that you were so quick to come up with. Yeah. What was the line that you gave that line a name with? Kane,
the patio Cripples.
Yes, the patio Cripples. I think you have an opportunity here. Now, what's funny is I'm talking about this second line. We're looking at Marco Kasper highlights. I am not suggesting that Marco Kasper goes in there, but of course, who we just talked about was Nate Danielson. We'll get into Kasper in a second here, but I think if you could bring Nate in there, you're adding some more stability defensively, and man, what a hell of an opportunity for him to be able to show what he's got, to be responsible, show what he's got, to bring some skill to the game, and have a couple of vets cover him offensively. But we've seen this entire preseason, and it's been commented on by our local media. It's been commented on by Lalone, but it's like, this is a guy who's going hard into the boards. You're winning the puck. You're getting those second chances. And the guys who are going to help you bury those are going to be passing the puck back and forth in Kane and Tarasenko and burying those second chances. I think it's a little bit more exciting too. I could, like, right now, somebody's listening to this and just saying, like, what a moron. What do we lose? What in God's name do we lose in putting Comfort down on the third line and putting Nate Danielson with two of the best forwards of this generation, and see what happens? Because the comment from Max, right, is like, hey, you got to keep Nate's minutes impactful. Second line minutes, boom, impactful. So I give him the impactful minutes. I don't care about results this season because Mike, it's not good. I'm holding up a little AirPod tracker for my children. It's a Mickey Mouse. That's if anybody saw it.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, we're not winning the Stanley Cup. We're not pulling off a Tigers miracle this year. If somebody wants to, but for us to actually possibly do it, you have to have some young blood in there, Mike. And that's where I tweeted this out and I got pushback, which I still don't understand how I got pushback on Twitter. But for this team to get into the playoffs, you can't just go out and kind of sub out one guy and bring in another guy. Like, you lost some here, you'll gain some here. Like, you were a team that missed the playoffs on a year it was very easy to make it to the playoffs, on a year that your shooting percentage was through the roof. So you need some surprises, is what I put out on Twitter, to get into the playoffs, to be a successful team this year. The surprises come from Nate Danielson. They come from Marco Kasper. They don't come from us just saying, like, well, Steve made some pretty smart signings so that the roster can be a little bit more balanced from top to bottom.
Man, I feel like you forgot that we have Joe Snively.
I hope to God I have no idea how to properly say his name. I hope it's Snively. But what this slide sort of highlights is there's multiple solutions here. You could put Nate on the third line, like it's on, like it says here. You can put Nate on that second line and have him center between Patrick Kane and Tarasenko. Now the third line that's represented here, you've got Nate with Andrew Kopp and Tarasenko on the right side. The reason I actually love this is from who writes slap shots? Is
that's the one
Shapiro?
Publication I don't follow.
I think it's you know what, he just emailed me a new article, so I'll look that up, but I just want to give him proper due. But he was actually writing an article. Sean Shapiro. Yeah, Sean Shapiro is writing an article about how important it is to have what a Patrick Kane represents on the right wing. And he actually talked about it by showing Tarasenko highlights. And I was thinking to myself, well, that's interesting. Maybe Tarasenko should stay on the right side. So Andrew Kopp has a history of playing some left wing. Nate Danielson, you center that line. I think that's a great option to make sure that Nate doesn't have too much responsibility to make sure things work out for Tarasenko and Kane. And you've kind of got two different hard nose, hits the boards, will be your defensive responsible players to keep track of Tarasenko. Going to that second line, Mike, I did make room for Berggren.
I noticed that, Matt. That is never going to happen on Iserman's watch, but go ahead, as you were.
Well, I think in my fantasy here, Patrick Kane can make anything work. And I think if you're going to default to Tarasenko and Kane on a second line, like if that's your default and you're like, you know what, we'll just try to generate offense here, I think Kane can do it without Tarasenko, and we saw that last year. And if I had to pick one of those guys who's going to end the season with he still looks like himself by game 82, I would pick Patrick Kane over Vladimir Tarasenko. I have some, real... I'm hesitant to say I'm super confident that we're going to get an amazing performance this year from Tarasenko. Nobody should be thinking that. I don't have to qualify that. Nobody should be thinking that. But we did see it from Kane last year. And Tarasenko did have a good playoffs. But there's something about his game and Kane's game where Kane's game is he's so damn good, everybody gives him 20 feet. So, yeah, he's still going to be Patrick Kane. But Berggren's the kind of guy who has this hockey smart on the offensive side that he knows exactly where he's going to need to be for Kane to rack up the assists this year. And I do still like Compher for knocking out this second line as well. I think either one of those lines, too, you could pretty much just say you have a first line of Larkin, DeBrincat, and Raymond, and then you have 2 second lines. And right there, you're starting to build an identity here of spreading out a little bit more of this offense and not just saying, well, if the first line doesn't score, we're going to throw out those 2 old farts and hopefully nobody turns the puck over because they're not going to be able to catch up. And just cross your fingers for the rest of the show. Because as much as everyone likes Andrew Kopp, Rasmussen, and Fisher, that's just when that line's on the ice, there's no shots on goal from our side. There's no shots on goal from their side. That's just a wash. That doesn't win. I'm sorry. To me, that doesn't win Stanley Cups. That just gets you through 82 games.
Matt, I do. With all that said, I do admire your optimism.
Yes.
But
thank you.
Just no chance of this lineup ever happening. But I think what we're going to be looking at is a way to screw over Berggren. And once again, a way to make sure that he's a healthy scratch. And the easiest way to do that is to, I think one of the key words that you touched on is identity. So when the Red Wings approach this offseason, and Directionally Correct has a very nice comment for me saying, so do you believe a long-established NHL player of a basement pod boy named Mike? Duh! Go with the pod boy, they know everything.
Wait.
I don't know what that means.
Do you believe a long-established? Oh, I think he meant over a basement pod boy named Mike.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that really threw me off because I sometimes I choke on how many times I say I know everything, which is 0. So suck it, Directionally Correct.
What an idiot. What? Or a basement. Gotcha.
Gotcha. I got
okay.
Well,
I tried to make it a better sentence, but yeah, if you just want to
No, as far as I just wanted to touch on because you said the word identity. So I feel like they approached this offseason and said, we're going to try and be more defensively oriented and less offensively oriented. And we talked about the goal differential being such a like an indicator of a real playoff team, and we've been so rough at it like the past couple seasons under Yzerman's watch. And last season, it felt like, man, maybe we're finally going to make the playoffs because we had enough goals, to set it up on one end, to be a top-tier team. But we just let in so many. It didn't matter that we kept scoring goals because we were basically still floundering, just scoring more goals now. So I think with that in mind, I think it means the hardest case to make the team is Berggren. And I actually think that it means that I don't know if it's, Matt, a DraftKings special for us. If I could put one out there for Marco Kasper making the opening night lineup over Jonathan Berggren, but if it was, I would.
I agree with you. I would definitely, based on what we've seen from Kasper, I'd go with Kasper over Berggren right now as well. I think you've got some dynamic two-way, like legit two-way. Can we stop playing the game where a guy's two-way just because he brings nothing to the table offensively? Because we saw Kasper just going crazy on the ice. But yeah, I think you're right. You take Kasper over Berggren, but I'm also the game that I want to play with this team right now, and I think it's the better game to play, is just we don't need to rely on what we thought was going to work back in July. And I'm not saying you're doing that, but let's put the kids in, man. You took forever to get Berggren's contract figured out. You actually did the work. If he's not going to be traded and he's on this roster, put him on the roster. But also, look, the guys I pulled off this team to make this work actually ended up being Rasmussen, Veleno, and Christian Fischer. And I mean, there's a whole nother Watson that's probably eyeing a spot on this team as well. But it's another one of those, like, can we bring some excitement to this season? Because I don't see a Stanley Cup. So what are we holding on to? I feel like, I'm hearing Kylo Ren and Adam Driver of just like this. Anybody who would want to argue like, no, this guy belongs here because it's the smarter move. And I'm just like, you're still holding on. Like, just let go. Just put these kids in and let's see what happens. And that goes for, I don't know, directionally. I don't know if you were being mean to us or if there's somebody who said, like, absolutely don't put Nate Danielson on this team for a long-established NHL player. But
Jim Johnson.
I know,
Mike, I thought you were the excitement. No, Dan B, I think you're pretty close to it. Sadly, I think Burgers will be a part of a Husso trade at some point this year. I feel like Yzerman actually did kind of an NBA move by signing Berggren, because a lot of the times what NBA teams do is they re-sign guys just so they have the asset, and they don't even care that you're on the team. It's like you just have a way to trade him now instead of him walking away. So I think, you get a goal-scoring prospect to go with a goalie who just needs a second shot. So yeah, I like Dan B's theory for sure.
Jared throws out there, don't you know the kids are supposed to spend a minimum of 5 years in Grand Rapids? I am curious, like, if there's any way we can get, like, I guess you wouldn't want Steve to just like steamroll like Marco Kasper in a press conference, kind of like how Neely just did that to Swayman. But like, what are we missing with Marco Kasper, where it feels like he could definitely make a difference on a penalty kill, and those seem like impactful minutes. And man, he's flying around the ice, and he's doing skilled things that are a result of winning board battles. It's just, I don't know.
I do want to keep your thread, but Jim Johnson saying we need as first priority a second pair right D, and Jared said, "Don't say priority, too soon." Thanks, Jared. I think we're going to see Kasper, and it's going to be the martyr for that is the burger. So I buckle in. Yeah.
And I did, to come back to Jim's comment too. And I think we don't have too much to talk about today. So I think we're going to wrap up shortly here. But Jim, I mean, I think you're right. I think, like, we talked about it all season. It was like, well, we didn't really fix too many of the holes on defense. So a lot of the same is a coming unless Ville Husso, plays his arse off like he did the other night.
Plays his onions off. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so basically we're just saying, like, unforeseen, like, out of nowhere goaltending performance, barring that, we're looking at a lot of the same. I think one of our competitor podcasts, who knows what it's called? I don't know. It's a couple of people probably listen to it.
Yeah.
They threw out there the Justin Hall comeback story or something this year. And it's just like, okay, preseason. Gotcha. I guess we'll get real excited for Justin Hall, but it's just, I don't care about those stories, Mike. I don't care about Ville Husso coming back. I don't care about Justin Hall. I pulled this up, and it's like, for better or worse, I think this is locked in. Like, you can move a couple of these guys around. Hall might get a spot. But the only exciting thing that can really happen, looking at our load of prospects right now, I feel like, is on the forward side. So that's what I want. That's what I want. I want to be excited about this season. And the only thing that really you can be excited about is that it's the end of not hockey. And I don't like that as my, my challenge to be excited is just that yesterday there wasn't hockey and now the season started. So you have to be excited.
As far as the Justin Hall, like, redemption story, what is his peak, Matt? What Hall are we hoping for? His best season? He's 31. He played 80 games. He scored 18 points. He's a depth defenseman that the fans and faithful were happy to say goodbye to. He had no suitors come free agency. He wasn't like a top prospect. He started really play when he's 28, Matt. Unless he has like a Detroit Tigers JD Martinez up his sleeve, and he's just going to get started cooking when he's 32 and adopts, a Miguel Cabrera like swing from the blue line. I don't know what we're really hoping for here. It's a baffling comment from our rival cast, who I don't want to acknowledge much more, but what do we think he's going to be at 32? He never really peaked. He never had a peak.
Yeah, and even like Toronto Maple Leafs fans who, over the couple of seasons here have softened a little bit, but they were just like, all right, good riddance, Justin. See you later. So even at like his prime years, there wasn't a lot to be gained from having him on your team, and it's not like he turned around Toronto defensively. So it's we don't want to spend too much time on this. So I guess there isn't too much fun to be had here. Besides, like, think about too. We love Moritz Seider. I'm going to preface it this way. So get ready, everybody. What's Matt going to say after he prefaces with "We love Moritz Seider"?
Don't do it, man. Go ahead.
The best thing he could do, Mike, with the upcoming season, is face less of the top line from another team, so that we can try to get him more offensive opportunities. Right. So then we're not attaching potentially very low expected goals for percentage numbers, where I just heard on Puck Soup, he actually measured as like number 165 out of 180 last year, which we know we attach that to. He has the hardest minutes every night of any NHL defenseman. He does. So the best thing we can hope for, Mike, is one of these other 5 guys takes over some of those minutes and does a better job than Moritz Seider? No. So it's, I don't know. There's not a lot of excitement to be had here.
One of the things that Matt and I like to do, we are clinks, and we love telling people, I told you so. And I think one of the best ways we can do that is when Danielson is inevitably sent to Grand Rapids to play all these huge, important first-line minutes in Grand Rapids, instead of learning how the actual NHL game is played. So I think we're probably going to get a repeat of Edmondson, where we were like, what are we doing? What do you mean you don't have time to play this guy in defense? Our defense is Swiss cheese. You're saying he's not good enough to crack this lineup. This lineup, he's not good enough to crack. So, we have a pretty good idea what the Red Wing forwards are going to look like when all 12 are healthy, and that's not a realistic expectation. So, we're going to see Kasper. There's a small chance we see Danielson, and when he gets called up and he looks great, Matt, we'll get to say, Steve, I told you so.
We'll hit a couple of these real quick. Dan B says, not really impressed with Gustafsson at all. I did think he was fine quarterback in a power play. I can give him it didn't look like, so far it didn't look like he hurt the power play. So Matt, I will challenge everyone to just take another peek at those power play units and go ahead.
Would you rather have him or the Ghost Bear?
Probably still the Ghost Bear. Yeah.
Damn it. Okay. Sorry, I was feeling good about that one.
Crimson throws out there, why no excitement for Johansson? We needed a defensive defenseman. Here you go. Now, I will say for Albert, one of the things I really like about his game, and we put it up on Twitter, is that he will be a guy that at the right moment will join the rush. And I was really curious to see if we'd see him pull that rabbit out of his hat. We did get to see it, and we got some highlights from I think that was the very first preseason game. That's the type of thing from him I'm excited to see. He's a real good skater. He's got his head screwed on, but the way everything sort of tracked out for him is it just, you're looking for those no-brainers, and that for me just seems like, again, like is the best case scenario for him that Edmondson elevates to the first pair, and now we have a second pair defenseman. I guess that's what we're looking for. But to me, it hasn't gotten into like no-brainer stage. And geez, OP, how old is he at this point?
Albert?
Yeah, he's 23 now, so he's still on certainly on the younger side, but I mean, he's hitting 24 soon. And at that point, now we're talking about like, I don't know, we're getting out of those fun, like, oh, the guy's between 18 and 22 sort of years. So
He's only a couple years away from being the next Justin Hall, getting called up at 26.
Right. So I mean, and the point there is just sort of how these players track and what you can sort of see at 21, 22, and we haven't seen it yet. So this could be the, 23. Still have that opportunity to see it. So if we don't see it this year, yeah, you have an opportunity to turn into Justin Hall one day.
Directionally correct, saying 100% agree. They need to bring up some kids. Youth,
now
for the Lions.
Now I feel bad because I was all mad at him.
I was too. I was like, hey, what the heck?
Be nice. But
youth worked for the Lions, directionally says, and extremely young players for the Tigers seem to be working out just fine. Why not the Wings? We just shrug because we don't. There's no justification for the way we've burned up cap space for what could have been more interesting moves and stonewalled young guys from even being able to play. Because, Matt, as you and I have been reading with so many recent Red Wing publications, this is a tough Red Wing lineup to crack. It's a tough lineup to crack. My God, just wall-to-wall all-stars. How can you possibly think Danielson's going to make it? My God. Look at that. That's Tyler Mott over there. Holy shit. Is that Andrew Kopp? Wow. I'm getting a home and an away jersey and a cancer jersey.
Jim Johnson.
Yeah.
We'll run through these comments and we're gonna actually jump off because I mean we've got the real episodes start next week, right? We got to do our season preview.
Brand new. I do want to hit brand new's comment too before we go.
Oh yeah. Jim throws out there, journalist in New York Times says the Wings will only get 81 points this year. That's connected with the Athletic, right? New York Times now is part of the. Yeah, or I'm sorry, the Athletic is now part of.
They have a relationship, so if you click on one, you can immediately go to the other.
But anyway, yeah. Interesting, Mike. Hey, you know what? We hit 90 points last year. I think 90, 91. Our very own Max Boltman, who's also, I guess, technically could be that writer, said look out for a drop this year. And not necessarily saying like the players are so much worse than they were last year. He's really hammering that the shooting percentage is going to be really tough to duplicate. So scary stuff. And we saw, oh my God, we didn't even get a chance to talk about it. But I mean, we saw it in that Pittsburgh Penguins game. Was that it? Where we lost 2-1 and which one of those games?
Are you talking about the doubleheader where it was like, was it Penguins and Buffalo on the same day? That game?
Yeah. So we lose 5-1. Nobody really. Was that right? Am I looking at the right game?
It was 4-3. We lost to the Sabres, right? And then that was the one that went to overtime. And then the other game I think was we got destroyed 5-1. Excuse me.
Alex Chason released from his professional tryout. That's a bummer. But yeah, like this was your nightmare. And again, we have to qualify everything with it's just preseason. Who cares? But this was your nightmare. This was the shooting percentage is not there. You saw it with some pretty good power play. Like just chance after chance on the power play. And the Red Wings just couldn't get one in. It was not terrible looking. I think we had like 4 or 5 power plays in the first 30 minutes of this game.
Is that the game we went 1 for 6?
Yeah, because Lucas Raymond got one.
Yeah.
So, we finally put one in the back of the net, but it is one of those things where it's like, this is sort of the nightmare we were all worried about. Like if the shooting percentage doesn't keep up, this is exactly like you could be eating a lot of these. And that's the scary one. Yeah. So I'm not calling this out as like, oh, this is kind of showing you, this is going to show you what we're going to look like this year. I don't believe that. Not for a second, but it is kind of scary that we already saw it. Like we sort of in the preseason in a game where it was like the Red Wings roster versus a bunch of AHLers and the horror of what could happen.
Oh, speaking of the horror, brand new asking, will Soderblom see any games this year? And he has a wonderful new nickname for him, Ogre Bloom. I love that. Brand new. I don't know. I don't remember if you were here at the start of the show, but the preseason, he in a preseason game, he took a puck to the Onions to help protect a lead. So we don't know what this poor guy has to sacrifice to get more NHL time. I really enjoyed his cameo when he was in Detroit 2 years ago. It doesn't feel like his getting time at the NHL level is a priority for the Red Wings. And I think what he would have to do is kind of transform and be like a defensive stopper as a forward, really take advantage of his long reach. And I think they're just worried about his skating kind of keeping up because, he can cover a lot of ground in one stride, but, it's kind of easier to get by him as a quicker offensive player. So I hope for it, brand new. I hope for it. Every time I go to LCA, they have that rack of game-worn jerseys, and there's a Soderblom just looking at me. And I'm like, that's what I want my jersey to be, but I don't want to drop $265 on a guy who doesn't make the team. Also, Chewy, welcome. Hope you're feeling healthy, bud. Every time we hear you, I always cringe because I'm like, God, I hope God is nice to him this week because he's got a lot of weeks where he's not very nice to Chewy. So, yeah, let's go Red Wings. Let's go Tigers.
Yeah, Jim and Jared reminding me. I'm thinking of a completely wrong game. But yeah, that power play actually was dog doo doo. The problem was we couldn't get the second opportunities. That was man, total wrong game. Eddie Hoozles. That's not good either. But yeah, fudge that one up pretty goddamn good. Anyway.
That's okay. We got our season previews going to be coming up. Tomorrow's the big draft for fantasy hockey. Can't wait to see how I screw it up this year. But Matt, I don't know. Is it time to sail off into the sunset?
I think so. Yeah, we don't have too much to talk about, but just beg and plead. Can we get Kasper and Danielson on this team? And as Jared and Jim just reminded me, hey, maybe the power play needs some extra excitement as well.
Maybe guys, a little burger on it, huh?
Keep an eye on that Discord so we can chat about the draft tomorrow for those who are in it. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
I almost died on Jim Johnson's final comment. A Soderblom jersey on Matt and Mike would be well below the knees. Thank you, Jim. Comment on the episode with seconds left to play.
And Jared, looking forward to another season of forgetting to set my lineups each week. Jared, come on, man.
I look forward to
get
losing
it together.
You anyway, Jared. So,
all right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Peace.